Has anyone ever told you the unfiltered truth about life after 80? Not the sugar-coated version, not the highlight reel, filled with endless cruises and perfectly groomed golf courses, but the real, raw, often complex experience of crossing that quiet, profound threshold into your 9th decade of life. Turning 80 isn't just another birthday, another candle on the cake. It's a gateway to a fundamentally different pace of living, a new landscape where time feels both beautifully expansive and, at times, painfully distant or fleeting. We're not talking about superficial changes, like more candles on the cake or slower walks in the park, though those are certainly part of the picture. We're talking about the silent shifts in your internal world and your external reality, the emotional turns that catch you unawares, and the subtle yet powerful transformations no one truly warns you about until you're already living them, navigating them in real time. This video isn't here to scare you or to make aging sound bleak and disheartening. Quite the opposite. It's here to offer truth, because truth is empowering. When you know what to expect, when you have foresight into the challenges and opportunities ahead, you are not caught off guard. You can face life with awareness, not debilitating anxiety, with thoughtful preparation, not reactive panic. We're going to walk through 5 difficult, but ultimately powerful truths about life after 80. These include the quiet, often heartbreaking vanishing of your social circle, the unexpected and sometimes frustrating betrayals of your own body, the creeping reliance on others, even when your deepest self craves fierce independence, the insidious way society sometimes overlooks you and acts as if you're no longer here, and the emotional weight of too much unstructured time paired with too few immediately obvious, meaningful tasks. Stick with us until the very end, because although these truths might seem heavy at first glance, they carry within them the seeds of profound acceptance, unshakable strength, and a newly defined purpose. When you truly understand what's ahead, you gain the clarity and the power to navigate the final, perhaps most poignant chapters of life, entirely on your own terms. With dignity, courage, and unwavering clarity, you transform from a passive recipient of aging into an active participant in shaping your own extraordinary narrative. Let's dive into what really happens after 80 and how you can walk through it with open eyes, a steady heart, and your head held high, ready for the journey. 1. The disappearing circle. When your world grows quiet, one of the first, and often most emotionally impactful, things you'll notice after turning 80 isn't a physical change. It's a deeply felt social one. The vibrant, bustling circle of people who once filled your days with laughter, conversation, and shared experiences, slowly, sometimes imperceptibly, begins to fade. Sometimes it's a gradual process, like a slow erosion. Other times, it's a sudden, jarring emptiness. Friends who used to call regularly to chat or plan outings stop calling altogether. Weekly visits from family members might thin out into occasional check-ins, squeezed between their own demanding schedules and responsibilities. The hard truth is that people pass away, move away to be closer to their own children, or into specialized care facilities, or retreat into their own struggles with aging, illness, or decreasing mobility. It's rarely anyone's deliberate fault. It's just life, a relentless, forward-moving current that often carries connections downstream, sometimes without you. And then, one day, the silence becomes deafening. The phone that once rang constantly with familiar voices now sits stubbornly still. The mailbox, once overflowing with cards and letters, receives fewer and fewer greetings. The doorbell rings less often, and spontaneous visits become a rarity. It's not that people don't love you. They often do, deeply and truly. But life gets incredibly busy for younger generations. Schedules fill up with their own intricate demands, and you, inadvertently, begin to feel like you've been placed gently, respectfully, but undeniably, to the side. This silent sidelining can feel like a profound loss, a diminishment of your very presence in the world. It strips away the casual, everyday interactions that once provided constant validation and connection. I remember a man named Walter, 84, who embodied this truth with quiet dignity. For over a decade, he went to the same small, bustling cafe every morning, precisely at 7:40 a.m. He wasn't just a customer, he was an institution. He used to be greeted by name, often with a cheerful, "Morning, Walter," from the barista. His small group of friends would show up without needing to text first. There was an unspoken rhythm, a shared sense of community that anchored his days. But then, one by one, the pattern shifted. One friend stopped coming due to illness. Another moved away to live with her daughter in another state. Another simply stopped driving, finding the morning commute too daunting. And before long, Walter became just another face in the corner booth, sipping his coffee alone. He told me once, his voice tinged with a profound wistfulness. "It's strange. When a place that once felt like home, where every face was familiar, stops recognizing you. Or rather, stops recognizing your place within its story." The loneliness after 80 doesn't always scream with dramatic tears or overt grief. Sometimes, it simply sits beside you at the dinner table, in the empty chair that once held laughter, a quiet ache in your soul. It's the realization that your personal history, your shared memories, and the very fabric of your social identity are becoming increasingly solitary. But here's the critical, empowering insight. Knowing this shift is real, anticipating it, means you can actively do something about it. You can be proactive. You can choose not to succumb to the silence. You can initiate contact rather than passively waiting for it. Whether it's joining a walking group, starting a weekly coffee date at that very cafe, attending a community class, volunteering, or simply making it a conscious effort to call someone first instead of waiting for your phone to ring. Connection after 80 doesn't come to you like it once did. You have to actively create it. You have to deliberately protect it. And yes, that takes effort, sometimes significant effort, especially when energy levels are lower. But it also takes immense courage. And if you've made it this far, through 8 decades of life's trials and triumphs, you already possess that courage within you. You have the resilience to redefine your social world, not merely mourn its past form. Consider intergenerational connections. Offer to mentor a younger person, share your stories with a local school, or simply strike up conversations with people of all ages. You are a living library, and many would be eager to listen if given the chance. 2. A body that slows without permission. After 80, your body becomes an increasingly unpredictable companion, a partner in decline that often sets its own terms. It doesn't just whisper vague hints about its limitations anymore. It speaks loudly, sometimes with surprising force, and often without any prior warning. The minor aches and pains that used to fade after a good night's rest now linger for days, transforming into chronic companions. Simple fatigue, once a fleeting visitor, can knock on your door and refuse to leave, stretching into pervasive exhaustion that colors every activity. And small health hiccups, they no longer stay small or easily dismissed. What might have been a minor cold at 50 can become a weeks-long struggle with pneumonia at 80. They can turn into significant detours, rerouting your entire life, or even, in some cases, becoming tragic dead ends. You might wake up feeling surprisingly fine, enjoying a morning of peace, only to find yourself ending your day unexpectedly in the ER for something you can't quite explain. a sudden dizziness, or a sharp, unfamiliar pain. What used to be a quick bounce back from a minor illness or injury now becomes a slow, cautious, and often incomplete recovery. Even diligently doing everything right, eating well, sleeping enough, staying consistently active with gentle exercise, can still leave you with the frustrating sensation that your body is no longer listening to your commands, no longer aligning with your inner vitality. The hardest part isn't solely the physical pain itself, though that can be profound. It's the sense of betrayal. You still feel young and capable inside, vibrant and eager to engage with life. But your physical form moves differently, responds differently, and often limits your intentions. You're not truly recovering in the way you once did. You're adjusting. You're adapting to a new, often less capable, normal. And that continuous adjustment takes immense mental and emotional strength, just as much as physical fortitude. It demands a recalibration of expectations, a letting go of former capabilities, and a reevaluation of what joy and fulfillment look like within new parameters. Take Gloria, 81, a woman of sharp intellect and vibrant spirit. She loved tending her sprawling backyard garden, leading her spirited book club, and taking brisk walks around her tree-lined neighborhood. Then, one crisp autumn day, she tripped while pruning a particularly stubborn rosebush. It wasn't a serious injury by most standards, just a bad sprain and some bruising. But the aftermath was unexpectedly long and slow. Weeks of enforced rest turned into months of reduced strength, persistent discomfort, and a significant wavering of her once unshakable confidence. "I thought I was just taking a little break," she told me, her voice tinged with surprise. "But my body treated it like a full shutdown. It simply refused to go back to how it was." That's the profound truth no one warns you about. At 80, rest is not always simply restorative. It can sometimes, paradoxically, trigger a decline, a loss of muscle mass or functional capacity that is difficult to regain. And the stark reality is, you don't bounce back, you adapt forward. Your life becomes a continuous process of strategic adaptation, rather than recovery to a previous state. But here's the hidden gift, the profound opportunity within this awareness. With this deep understanding, you can begin to honor your body in a truly sacred way. You can learn to slow down, not out of fear or resignation, but out of profound respect for what your body has carried you through for 8 decades. You don't take health for granted as an automatic right. You treat each day, each step, each moment of well-being as a precious, sacred practice. You learn to move with exquisite intention, to choose activities that nourish rather than deplete, to conserve energy for what truly matters. And in this process, you begin to understand that while speed and unblemished youth may fade, grace, resilience, and the capacity for joy don't have to. You can find new forms of movement, new ways to engage with the world, and new appreciation for the simple act of being. This adaptation is not a compromise. It is an evolution, a testament to your enduring spirit. The quiet shift from independence to interdependence. There comes a point after 80 where fierce independence, once your greatest source of pride, a badge of honor worn throughout your life, starts to feel less like a solid foundation and more like a precarious tightrope walk. You find yourself hesitating before driving on rainy days, recognizing that reflexes aren't what they once were. You think twice or thrice before climbing onto a stool to reach that top shelf. You might strategically avoid bending low to reach something under the sink, anticipating the strain it will put on your back or knees. It's not because you've given up or become weak-willed. It's because you know, deep down, with a wisdom born of experience, that even small mistakes now come with significantly larger, potentially life-altering consequences. A minor fall can mean weeks of recovery, a hospital stay, or a permanent loss of mobility. The margin for error shrinks dramatically. But the hardest part isn't necessarily the physical act of asking for help. It's the profound emotional challenge of admitting you need it. This is especially true when you've spent a lifetime being the helper, the strong one, the provider, the rock for your family and community. The identity shift from giver to receiver can be deeply unsettling, even painful. It can trigger feelings of vulnerability, shame, or the fear of becoming a burden. Many elders internalize the societal message that needing help is a sign of weakness, leading them to hide their struggles, risking their safety and well-being in the process. Take Eugene, 85, a proud veteran who served his country, a father of 4 who built a successful career, a handyman who could fix anything, and a fiercely independent soul who prided himself on self-sufficiency. One winter, he slipped on his icy driveway while fetching the newspaper. No broken bones, thankfully, just a severely bruised hip and, more significantly, bruised pride. He didn't tell anyone, gritting his teeth through the pain and managing daily tasks with difficulty. But his observant daughter noticed a subtle hesitation in his movements, a new stiffness in his gait. Without asking directly, she began visiting more often, bringing groceries, staying for coffee. At first, Eugene resisted, his default response always being, "I'm fine, I've got it." But slowly, steadily, those seemingly casual visits turned into meaningful moments of shared presence. Coffee, conversation, quiet companionship, and unobtrusive assistance. Eventually, one afternoon, sitting across from his daughter at the kitchen table, he admitted something that surprised even himself. "You know," he sighed, a profound weariness in his voice, "it's actually nice not having to carry everything alone anymore." That's the evolution we're talking about. The quiet shift from rigid independence to graceful interdependence. Real strength, after 80, isn't about stubbornly doing everything solo, even to your detriment. It's about knowing what truly matters enough to protect. Your well-being, your safety, your remaining energy, your dignity. And sometimes that means accepting a helping hand so you can preserve your capacity to engage in activities that bring you joy and meaning for longer. It's about understanding that accepting help isn't a surrender of independence, but a strategic act to safeguard it. Support can come from people, family, friends, professional caregivers, but it can also come from tools and adaptations. A sturdy walker or cane, strategically placed safety rails in the bathroom, a simple stool in the kitchen, a digital medication reminder, or even smart home devices that control lights and thermostats. These aren't signs of weakness or decline. They are extensions of wisdom, proactive measures that enhance your safety, comfort, and ability to navigate your environment. They help you protect your autonomy, not surrender it. They are tools for thriving, not merely surviving. And here's the most liberating truth. There is no shame in needing help. There's only profound strength, courage, and wisdom in choosing peace over pride, safety over struggle, and connection over isolation. Embracing interdependence allows you to preserve your energy for what truly counts, ensuring you can continue to live a life rich in meaning, connection, and self-respect. It's about learning to lean so you don't fall, and understanding that leaning on others makes you stronger, not weaker. 4. A world that starts looking past you. One of the most insidious and painful shifts after 80 has nothing to do with physical pain or medication regimens. It's the subtle, yet deeply impactful way the world around you begins to act as if you're no longer fully present, no longer quite here. It's the experience of feeling subtly or overtly overlooked. You might walk into a busy store, waiting patiently at the checkout, and notice the cashier's gaze slides past you to the person behind you, engaging them in conversation before even acknowledging your presence. You go to a doctor's appointment, a place where you should feel seen and heard, and realize the nurse or even the doctor addresses your adult child or companion instead of you, as if you're not capable of understanding or articulating your own needs. A server at a restaurant might talk slower, louder, or in an overly polite, almost infantilizing tone, assuming you can't hear, comprehend, or decide for yourself. These aren't always malicious acts. They often stem from a societal impatience, a lack of awareness, or an unconscious ageism that dismisses the wisdom and vitality that can still reside within an older body. You become a background character in your own unfolding story. Not because you've changed fundamentally, but because the fast-paced, youth-obsessed world around you makes assumptions based on your appearance, your pace, or your age. This feeling of becoming invisible, of being subtly erased, can be profoundly demoralizing. It chips away at your self-worth, your sense of agency, and your very identity. It hurts because, no matter how old we are, we still deeply desire to be seen, acknowledged, and respected. When you've lived a full life, working, raising families, making countless decisions, weathering innumerable storms, it's jarring and frankly insulting to feel dismissed or trivialized just because your skin has folded or your hair has grayed. Irene, 86, a woman of sharp wit and keen historical knowledge, volunteered tirelessly at a local museum she loved, sharing her memories of a bygone era. One day, a younger visitor asked a staff member a question about an exhibit pertaining to a historical period Irene had personally lived through and could have answered with unparalleled first-hand insight. Yet, the staff member answered without even turning to Irene, completely bypassing her presence. When I asked Irene how she felt about it, she just smiled thinly, a weary resignation in her eyes. "I'm used to it," she said softly. But the profound sadness behind that smile was undeniable. It was the kind of sadness that comes from being seen as furniture, an inanimate part of the background, instead of a vibrant, contributing human being, a living flame with decades of light and warmth to share. But here's the powerful counter-narrative. You are not furniture. You are not background noise. You are still here, still thinking, still feeling, still contributing, still observing, still a vibrant and valuable part of humanity. And just because society is often in a hurry, caught in its own shallow narratives of youth and speed, doesn't mean you have to shrink, to diminish your own powerful presence. You still have every right, and indeed a vital role, to raise your hand, to share your insightful opinions, to write your stories, capturing a legacy that might otherwise be lost, to offer your unique voice in conversations that matter, to vote, to advocate, to engage in your community. You must demand to be seen, not through anger or bitterness, but through the sheer power of your enduring presence, your intellect, and your wisdom. Because the more you speak, the more you engage, the more others are gently, powerfully reminded that aging isn't merely fading, it's deepening, enriching, and offering a perspective that is desperately needed in a world often lost in the superficial. Maintain a sense of style, continue to pursue your interests, engage in conversations, and look people directly in the eye. Your presence is your assertion. 5. The weight of regret and the gift of redefining purpose. After 80, your external calendar often empties significantly. Your frenetic pace of life slows, sometimes dramatically, perhaps for the first time in decades. And in that newfound stillness, that quiet expanse of time, the past often grows louder, clearer, more insistent. You have more time to think, to reflect, to remember, and to replay moments, both joyous and painful. And with that increased time for introspection comes a quiet, specific kind of ache. Regret. This isn't always the loud, dramatic, theatrical regret. It's the quiet, persistent kind. The regret of missed chances, the travel not taken, the risks not embraced, the words not spoken, the time not spent with loved ones who are now gone, the conversations postponed, the relationships left unresolved, the dreams you perhaps postponed, telling yourself, someday, until your body or your freedom couldn't catch up to the opportunity. This lingering sense of what if or if only can become heavy, a subtle emotional weight in the quiet hours. But this doesn't have to be where the story ends or where your narrative gets stuck. Regret, in this context, is a visitor, not a permanent roommate. And if you let it, if you approach it with courage and self-compassion, it can become your wisest teacher instead of your tormentor. It can point to where your heart truly lies, illuminating values that perhaps you neglected amidst life's rush. Stanley, 88, was a man who lived a life of unwavering dedication, serving as a beloved teacher for 4 decades. He poured his heart and soul into educating generations of students. After he retired, initially, he felt a profound sense of pride in his accomplishments. But that was quickly followed by a strange, unsettling hollowness. "No one needs me anymore," he confessed one afternoon, his voice tinged with a raw vulnerability. But that wasn't true. It was a misperception born of a lifetime tied to a singular, defined role. He just hadn't yet found his next purpose, his next way to contribute and feel needed beyond the classroom walls. Eventually, after a period of deep reflection and some gentle nudging from his family, he began volunteering to mentor young, struggling teachers in the local school district. He started writing reflections on his teaching experiences, sharing his insights. He also found immense joy in volunteering to read to children at the public library, seeing their faces light up. Through these new engagements, he realized something profoundly powerful. Purpose doesn't retire with a job. It evolves, it changes shape, finds new avenues, and takes on new, often more subtle, forms. Maybe you no longer build careers or climb corporate ladders, but you can build courage, resilience, and a sense of wonder in your great-grandkids with your captivating stories and patient guidance. Maybe you don't host big meetings or command boardrooms, but your quiet, comforting presence at someone's bedside when they are grieving, or your heartfelt letter of encouragement, is often more meaningful and impactful than any grand speech ever was. Perhaps you no longer solve massive societal problems, but you can alleviate profound loneliness with a simple, genuine smile to a neighbor, a listening ear, or a small act of kindness. The key is this: don't mistakenly measure your worth by traditional metrics of productivity, achievement, or external validation. Instead, measure it by presence, your accumulated wisdom, your boundless compassion, your unique perspective, your capacity for deep listening, your ability to simply be with another human being. These are your most potent offerings now, and they matter deeply and profoundly. They are the true legacy of a life well lived. Final thoughts. Reaching your 80s is an extraordinary, remarkable milestone, a testament to your endurance, adaptability, and fortitude. It's a landmark built on decades of choices, experiences, love, loss, effort, change, and unyielding resilience. But this new chapter demands honesty. Life will undoubtedly continue to change. People you cherish will inevitably fade from your immediate sphere. Your body will weaken and demand more care. The world in its relentless pursuit of speed and novelty, may grow louder, while you, in your wisdom, may grow quieter. But that doesn't mean you disappear. It means you deepen. You still have a choice, every single day. A profound choice about how you will meet these realities. You can choose connection, actively seeking and nurturing relationships. You can choose rest, not as a sign of defeat, but as a sacred act of self-preservation. You can choose to ask for help, shedding the burden of false pride. You can choose to speak louder and assert your presence when someone overlooks you, and conversely, choose to speak softer, with abundant grace, when someone needs your gentle understanding. You can choose to forgive yourself for what didn't happen, for the paths not taken, and to honor yourself for all that did happen, for the extraordinary journey you've already traversed. This chapter of life isn't an ending, a final curtain call. It's a refinement. It's the deep, rich, complex part of the story, the part where every word, every gesture, every quiet moment carries immense weight and meaning. It's the part where small, intentional gestures mean more than grand ones ever did. It's the profound part where your presence, your patience, your hard-won perspective, and your quiet strength don't diminish. They become your most powerful, undeniable legacy. So, tell us in the comments below, which of these truths resonated most deeply with you? And how do you plan to live with intention, purpose, and dignity, even now, in this powerful stage of life? If this video spoke to you, if it offered you a moment of clarity or validation, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this unfiltered truth. Your voice, your support, your presence, they still matter profoundly. And we're honored to walk this journey of understanding and acceptance with you. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video.